All right, welcome back to another episode of Lounge 11 with Femi and Samko. Today is going to be a firecracker, I can tell you that much, because we have a very special guest. We have a very special guest here in the lounge. But before I introduce him, Samko, how's your week going?
My week has been busy, it's been long, but man, I've been looking forward to this one, man. Just because of this
Yeah,
guest we have here today.
you know what's funny? I've
Looking
had a
forward
very
to this
long
one.
week. Forget the football piece. I've actually had a really long week at work. And coming in today, I was like, man, I'm tired and all that. But then it's like, our guest is here. I was like, okay, this guy's going to come correct. So let me go and drink my coffee. Samko, I'll let you introduce our guest for today.
Yeah, so for today we have, to be honest, this is one of like my favorite people. Like since I met this guy, straight stand-up guy, great head on his shoulders. Like I said, I was literally looking forward to this episode. It's so crazy that the first North London Derby that we did, that was the one that we were away in London, so we were not able to record.
Yeah.
He like when we started this show, when you're like planning guests down, he was already written down for that November episode. So there was no way that this particular one, I was not going to get him here. So without further ado, man, I'm just going to introduce everyone to a lot of people call him Sid. Some call him the commissioner, president. The name goes on and on. So man, welcome to the lounge, man. It's a pleasure to have you.
Welcome,
Man, it's a
welcome,
pleasure
Sid.
to be here, my boys. Few things more interesting than just catching up with your boys, talking football, is it's not too many things better than that day to day. So love what you guys have been able to do with this. Just appreciate the opportunity to just have the chance to break down a few things with you guys on how we see the game. And yeah, excited for the next hour.
Appreciate it, man. Typically, when we have a guest, or at least a first-time guest in the lounge, we want to kind of go over their story about the team that they support. We know that you're a Spurs fan, as much as you might want to dissociate yourself. But before we jump into that, I know that Samko had mentioned, or at least hinted, that some people call you commissioner. We just kind of set the stage as to why that is the case. Sidney is one of the, or at least I think, the founder of one of the groups that we keep referencing here. This is our 21st or 22nd episode.
22nd.
22nd episode. So you guys have heard us reference No Fly Zone a few times. Sido is the founder of No Fly Zone. I just want to make sure I give him his flowers. I think Samko introduced me to No Fly Zone, 3-4 years ago now. And the relationships that have been built in that group, we fight, we make up, we throw bands, but at the end of the day, you know that people have each other's back and the best interest. We all just are bonded by one common thing, which is football. So shout out to you, Sidney, for putting all that together. Maybe we'll start there. How did that idea for No Fly Zone come about?
Man, it's crazy what it has become actually, because I think back then, what are we like? When our 11th year,
I think 10 or 11 season, yeah.
something crazy like that. Yeah. Back then, it was just like obviously we love football. We like to talk football. And then obviously there's fantasy, Premier League, and you kind of get engaged with that. I remember back then, I think I was in Ottawa, in Carlton at the time. And I remember just starting it, wanted to like get a few of my friends like together where we don't just have a league, but then we have like a community where we can also talk about maybe the changes we're making or the things we anticipate to happen in that game week. Just kind of like have some conversation around that. And I think the first time was probably like, I don't know, 20 people, right? And then each year it just continued to get bigger and bigger to a point where like you guys have been there you guys are OGs now. At this point, we're running together at this point, where like we have to put strict rules in place,
Yeah.
just to make sure that we keep the community. Because the way it got, like realistically, if I wanted it to be, I don't know, 200 people in there, would probably be 200 people in there today, right? But it wasn't so much about numbers. It was really about preserving the community. So we always restricted it to paid members. We restricted it to obviously competing FPL members, right? So that like it's just kind of channeled towards a source and a focal point. So obviously we know the focal point is meant to be FPL, but
This
To
is
us, to
it
be
has
honest,
gone far from that.
It's gone beyond that.
we do almost everything but FPL on the
I think
which is
the
also
funny
great.
thing is,
Yeah.
the funny thing is, by week, I'm gonna say week 5, very early in the season, everybody knows kind of like this is not gonna work out.
This is
from
not gonna work
an
out.
FPL standpoint. And so you're really just there to kind of engage and interact with the rest of the guys. So, but what has surprised you the most about? Because everybody's from everywhere. You have people from
Yeah.
I think Nigeria, UK, US, Canada, like. What has surprised you the most about where people have come from?
You know what? It's been like, I think diversity is probably like our biggest thing right now. I'd say, obviously starting like going to school in Nigeria and then everybody kind of like migrating to different parts of the world adds I'd say it's probably at the core of that, because I remember probably by year 2 or 3, just sending an invite to a few of like my friends from Corona who had gone to the UK, some of them in the US. And so it kind of just started like that. And then it now becomes them, I think the other thing too is transparency, right? Because the whole thing probably falls apart if there's ever any year where there's a money pot and at the end of the year there's stories
There's
around
stories.
not
Yeah.
getting their money, right? So I think, and initially I can't even remember, but I know that there was a point where we just had gifts. Like I remember Tolu was part of the people that like really was instrumental. Like there were a couple years where he'd give like a bottle of champagne to winners, things like that. It's like, so it helped just galvanize, bring people together. And then obviously the word just kept spreading that like, oh, you can pay, I don't know, $20. And at the end of the season, you can win like, I don't know, $1,000 from just being a good FPL manager. And then we went up to 30, 40, and now we're at 50. And it's like, genuinely people are, I don't know, paying rent or paying one casual bill that you'd rather be taken care of by a community.
Yeah.
And it's just become that. And I think the greatest thing right now is I can see there's probably like 30 people on there that I don't know from Adam.
Wow.
Probably more than that, being real. And that comes from like obviously making it a first come, first serve thing where people can, like, if you recommended or you referred your friend and they came through and paid and got their spot in, like, I'm not going to come back and be like, oh, I have one of my boys that hit me up. And you guys know how it is. It's always after the deadline or at the deadline, everybody's closing the group. Oh, we're trying to get in.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, man, we're full, and then it helps us because you're also getting different perspectives, right? From different parts of the world, the way people see football. We've had guys that like literally work in VAR that give us like a different view and perspective. Brian does that perfectly, and a lot of our friends also, like, they're in the UK. So we're getting all these pitch side views when guys go to games. You guys have even given us some of those experiences when you went across the pond to touch one. I see all of it just makes it like this amazing community that, and I think that's one of the goals, is just to have this space as well where even outside of the group, people are meeting a lot of like-minded individuals who are doing a lot of important things, whether it's in business, personally, socially, and they're able to connect, additionally on those things from the first or initial interest being football, and I think that's where we're at right now. And I'm just really excited to see how it continues to evolve and what we make out of it,
Cool. Samko, what are some of your favorite memories of like No Fly Zone, or at least things that stand out to you from No Fly Zone?
Oh, my favorite is always gonna shout out to Nene. That's always gonna be my favorite moment.
Yeah, Nene is a special character.
Shout out to Nene. That's gonna be my favorite moment because I remember that was I think it was Bayern Munich Spurs. I think that was the game, and man, Bayern Munich was just lashing Spurs. Like, I was tormenting this guy on this group, and the next thing you just see, Nene has left the group. that has to be my favorite moment. But you know what's funny as well about Nene is, like, I remember even because myself and Nene always used to have that. We always used to go back at each other, right?
Who hasn't he had that with?
And I remember there was a day I even reached out to Sid, and I'm like, who is this Nene guy? Like, he's just getting my head in every single time. And it was funny because I went to Vancouver a few months later. I want to go see one of our boys, and I heard Nene actually lived in Vancouver. So we reached out to him decided to like just hang out, get a couple drinks. And it's crazy. One of the nicest, funniest guys you ever meet. Like literally what you see in the group chat and what you meet in person is like,
Two different.
so, and you've had the same experience when he came to California as well. So I think that's the thing that I've really enjoyed about what Sid has done. And if you remember when I was in Nigeria, I sent a message to you, Sid. One of those nights we were out when we're doing the watch along. We're like 30, 40 people. And I literally got off my phone and I reached out to Sid. I'm like, bro, like, you need to see what you have done. Like, there are like 30, 40 people here that are meeting for the very first time, but it just feels like family and friends just enjoying soccer, watching soccer, banter and everything. And it was lovely to see, but just for the fact that it was just due to this guy who made all those things possible, I just love to see that. And again, big shout out to him. We really do enjoy it. Like, that's what has brought us here today. We're actually being truthful. So
it's funny you share that Nene story because I remember reaching out to Samko as well. Like, who's this dude, right? Like, I remember, I think I might have texted on the group one time, like, Nene, this thing can be whatever you want it to be. Listen, it can go anywhere you want it to go. And I honestly thought that the first day we see each other, we're probably going to like throw hands or some stupid stuff. And this guy comes to Cali, we hang out. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, since then, I just don't have it in me to go at Nene anymore. Because it's like, dude, I know you. Like, you're a nice boy.
Everybody.
Like, we've hung out.
Like in real life, it literally feels like your younger brother.
Like literally.
Yeah, it's like, why are we doing this, man? Like, I don't even have the energy anymore to respond. Because I'm like, oh, you're really just like having a good time, you know. But Nene's one of my favorite characters. Yeah. All right, man. Let's jump into some Spurs stories, right? Or at least I think you've tried to dissociate yourself from Spurs, and we are not having it. But officially, or I guess from time, your team has been Real Madrid, right? Right, but we're not recognizing that today. For the purpose of our conversation, we're sticking. For the purpose of our conversation, we're sticking to Spurs. On our group, you know, you've had to carry the Spurs flag along with people like Nene and a couple others. So how did you become a Spurs fan? How did you become you like from Real Madrid, excellence, and then you end up with like Spurs? That story is really interesting.
You know what it is, right? I think I trace it back to Jose, right? I've kind of always grown up with sports having not just an affiliation for clubs, or individuals that like inspire me personally, and just being able to buy into their stories and almost like see it through. It feels like starting a book. And I remember being in high school, and at this time Mourinho was in Porto, and I just saw this guy like young, confident, you know, didn't feel shaken by anything, didn't have like this call it personality from having like an established international career, at least football playing career, right? And then, you know, he had this armband too that I remember, like this blue and white armband. And this guy just won games, you know, and I was just like, yo, like, I like this guy, you know, he's young, he's unknown. I know one of those things, like, it's kind of like in sports, soccer too, where you just kind of find a gem. It could be a young player, it could be a young manager, and you just buy into their story and you just want to see where they go with it. And that's kind of like me and Jose. And I just from there on, you know, and like he could do no wrong in my eyes, literally until this week, ironically. But I just followed Jose. But before that, I was a Madrid fan. But then he came to, so I never really had like I'd say a long-term Premier League team. And I'd say ironically, or just based on circumstance, people just seem to watch the Premier League a lot more. So all my friends, everybody's dialed in, Arsenal, United, you know. So and I always want to obviously banter with them, but then it's not fun too to just go pick like a standout, you know, favorite. Oh, Liverpool, I'll cheer for Liverpool. Genuinely, I couldn't even do it. But Jose is somebody I could root for. Doesn't matter where he's at, right? So each club he went to, like I always just wanted him to win. I wanted him to like do his thing. He ended up at Spurs, which was, I could never have scripted that one, right? But he goes into sports, and then I'm like, all right, we're going to go on this journey. And then, you know, things turned out the way they turned out. Literally got fired the week before his final But then he leaves the league, and at that point, I'm like, it's kind of like Will Smith in that, that scene of Fresh Prince where you're like, man, there's
Where's
nobody else.
everybody?
Where's everybody? So I hung around. Afterwards, it was Conte, which is kind of, very similar vibes. The only thing I've always had an issue with Conte is his performance in Europe, which is very, very different from how he sort of comes off in the league. But then I just stuck with Spurs. Maybe it was the white thing, the fact that Madrid wears white, these guys wear white. I kind of looked at them as like a pet project, where it's like, man, I could really see what you guys can become. Maybe also the transfers in between, the Bale, Woodgate, Adebayo, those affiliations, Modric, of course. So I just stuck with it, and they're this team of potential where it doesn't feel like how many times are Madrid going to meet Spurs for me to really feel conflicted? Not too many times, right? But then in the Premier League, it works. They often fall short, and that part isn't fun, but it just works. It's banter. I can, a lot of the times I'm on the receiving end, but then few times there's some glorious moments that we're able to dish it out. So it is what it is.
No,
Little birdie
no,
told
no
me that you were once an
disclosures.
Arsenal
Okay,
fan too,
fire down.
That's not,
I was going to ask for those disclosures, but
I
it's like
I
you were
knew you
ahead of
guys were
me.
going to be messy. I didn't know how messy. So when both of you come together, I know that there has to be messiness, which I have on account of. The Arsenal piece is definitely accurate too, I'd say. And it just came again, similarly, right? Just came from an era where they were like just growing up, Lagos, young kid, you're watching teams in Europe, and then there just happens to be this English team with like a lot of black players, and you're just, that's just what you see is representation at the end of the day, right? And I mean, it's kind of hard like watching Henri. Like, I can't even think of anybody that was young, unless you had like an affiliation, but growing up in that era and not really like, for lack of a better word, fucking with Henri, it's kind of weird, because like he was just him, So I really like Henri was again. This was way before even Jose and all that. Henri was somebody that I really resonated with, and I just again saw his path through. I'd say until he left Arsenal. And from that point on, it was just like, yeah, I'm off this. But yeah, just I know it's different. Is a complete different view on sports and the whole like fanfare and all those for clubs. But for me, it's always been about individuals that have impacted me personally that I could relate with their stories. And that kind of drives club affiliation and support for me.
Final question for me, and then I'll turn it over to the area that Samko is well versed in, which is the dealings of Spurs. But as a Spurs fan, you mentioned that there is not a lot of, you have more low moments than highs, but you guys have had a few where you get a chance to dish it back. But what has been your favorite, or a couple favorite moments you've had as a Spurs fan that just live in your mind? That
Well,
one's
for
tough,
me,
yeah? Yeah, for you now. I'm not a sports
oh,
fan.
I don't know why I felt like that question was for Samko.
No, for you.
Was moments that have stuck with me, of course, man. I'll tell you. Beyond obviously Mourinho getting hard, because man, he's just my guy. Really love that. Conte, I felt like he was somebody that was going to toe the same path. So I was with that movement as well. But I'll tell you, a manager that surprised me and who I'll say, I dare say that I probably followed his journey as much as, perhaps if not even more than, Jose's was Ange. Ange Postecoglou was a guy that I don't know. Like I don't think I've ever been more of I don't think I've ever been more affiliated with Spurs than under Ange. Just him getting hard. Like once he got hard, just the first press conference. Like he's just one of those guys that they have a way with words. And like I just resonated with that. He's actually a leader of men. He actually can drive, instill, influence, confidence in people, and it was just there to see. Sadly, Kane was leaving like a few days or weeks earlier or later, so that was, I guess, a downhill. But I'll say that moment when he got hard, because I think from that moment followed Spurs a lot more with a lot more keen interest. And then, of course, the highlight obviously being the Europa League final, getting one over United was, I mean, it was just brilliant. And it wasn't even like, it was just this thing of seeing them shed the tag of Spursy, and like it's almost like buying like a blue chip stock, where you're just like, man, you knew these guys had this potential in them. They really have what it takes, but it's almost like they don't recognize it 98% of the time. And this one time they just happen to see it through. So I think that was an amazing experience, I would say. Those moments definitely stand out.
Yeah. Well, since Ange, there's been some transition, and actually Ange came out to give an interview, very explosive interview last week. So Samko, I'll turn it over to you, because this is where, you kind of lay down all the different things about Spurs.
It's funny he actually like brought up Spurs. Like, I was just gonna say, like, so based on the connections you had with him, like, I know you were a very big fan of him. I've always been a big fan of Ange, even before he came to Spurs and stuff like that. When you saw his interview, like, what were your remarks? What did you get from that interview and everything?
Which one? The overlap interview?
The overlap one, yes.
What will I say I got out of that interview? I think even prior to that, there's an interview that stands out, which I think I'd recommend to people to watch. It's this interview that he did at Forest, and he has like this soundtrack that plays over it, and it just, man, it feels, it's sad. It feels sad in a lot of ways, but deeply personal, I'd say. That one probably hit me a lot more than the overlap one. But the overlap one was him just really saying a lot of truths that, if you've really followed the club for some time, you'd have to agree with, right? Like, and this has always, even when I've talked football with you guys, Samko probably a little bit more. It's just been the confusion between where Spurs, what the vision is, like where they're trying to go. You come out and you build a statement stadium like that. Mediocrity is obviously not the goal, but then afterwards you kind of sell your flagship player as well, but then you're not replacing with other flagship quality level players. So it's just always been this conflicting sort of actions. You bring in a Conte, Mourinho, but you're not backing them with the transfer coffers that they need to actually implement their style of football, bring in, more quality, experienced players to be immediate fits and provide immediate fixes, right? So just the confusion, at the top level has always been something that has kind of stood out for me. And that's why I'd say, like, I still feel till today. So I could resonate with that, which was probably my biggest takeaway from that moment. Like, he talks about, today is to do, but then you're not daring. Like, you're like, what risks are you actually taking? You go and buy a kid or a few kids after Kane leaves the club, and it's like, what are you trying to do? And that's what I said, like, that was the biggest takeaway. It just also happened to be like the same day, literally, where his two clubs let go of their manager, same day.
That is
and
true. That's crazy, actually.
There's a huge karma piece there. But, and again, the same thing can even be said of Forest, because it's like, man, like, what are you guys trying to do? Like, but I guess they're not the focus for today. But yeah, that's been my issue with Spurs. I'd say even since day one until day,
But did you support the decision from Spurs to let Ange go?
Again, right, is all dependent on what is the plan here. Like, I'm big on, maybe perhaps like just my career and what I do personally. I'm big on strategy and then execution, ultimately to operations, right? So if you're looking to get rid of Ange, what's the vision here? I get it. You're mad at him. He finished 17th. That's not where you belong, all of that. But then he won a trophy. He almost had to make a business decision on, how to like basically map out his risks and figure out, okay, if I'm not getting the support I need to perform week in, week out with the squad depth to really make an impact in this league, I might as well forego this league and focus on Champions or Europa and potential Champions League places through the route of winning Europa, right? And then obviously having the opportunity to attract the caliber and the level of quality that he would need to really execute his ideas on the pitch, right? And I think he did that really well. So you guys even remember from No Fly Zone, my initial view was don't get rid of Ange. Back him. He's won the trophy. What was the most you're going to get in the league anyways? Top 4. What do you get from top 4? Champions League. He's provided you that with another route. Now you back him. You're able to attract the best players that you can attract. Just back him. The players are behind him. That much was evident. At least I'd say maybe 45, 50% of the fan base were behind him. Just back him and then give him another year. But then no. Okay, that's fine. But then again, if you're pivoting away from Ange, then again, what's the strategy? This is a club that interviewed Enrique and refused to pay him what he wanted, let him walk. There are no people that summer. Nagelsmann, same thing. So if you've seen all these guys, like they play quote unquote this attacking football that you want, and that's the ethos you're trying to build the club around, is that the path you're going? Or okay, you're trying to kind of squeeze the most out of each dollar, I guess, almost like a Brighton sort of playbook, which was what I kind of saw with bringing in Thomas Frank. Is like you just want to punch above your weight. It's almost like cheating the game in a sense. You know, you want to invest 50 million maybe a summer or 100 million a summer, but you want the output to be like 250 M's. And that's where, again, the strategy just comes back to bite them in the ass. It's penny wise, it's pound foolish. And ultimately, it brings them to a point of restarting the project all over again, which is essentially where we're at right now. And I mean, if you really understand the game, you know that the project isn't even starting with Tudor. This is just a stopgap for the project to actually restart again in the summer with whoever that next manager is, right? And we don't know who that is today, you know? Yeah, frustrating.
You know, it's funny because football is such a fickle game. I actually forgot that Thomas Frank was the manager for like this 8 months, right? Because it almost feels like it went from Ange to this guy, but there was Thomas Frank in the middle. What did you feel about that appointment when it happened? And how would you've talked about strategy and where Spurs is trying to go, but how do you evaluate Spurs under Thomas Frank? Because it's kind of unique. They finished 4th in the Champions League places, so they were one of the best teams in Europe, but that didn't translate in the same way to the Premier League.
Which is funny, right? Because you would think and you would have thought if you were a betting man at the start of the season that it would probably be the opposite. Because Thomas Frank kind of knows the league, overperformed in the league, you know. So you would think if he was to have more success in the 2 versus Europe where he hasn't been as exposed, he'll kind of have the edge in the Premier League. That hasn't been the case. Primarily because see, and that's what's happening right now, because a lot of people it's becoming evident that Thomas Frank's successes at Brentford were not more Thomas Frank, they were more Brentford than they were Thomas Frank, because you've had a set-piece coach sort of step into that role and essentially outperform him. And no season isn't done yet, but if we're literally checking like a year-to-date performance, it's fair to say he has outperformed him, right? So then you look at that and you say, well, what's really responsible here? And there are a few things, right? I'll start from the Super Cup, PSG Spurs. Tactical brilliance in that game. I think it was a game that Spurs should have won, realistically. You know, they did tactically, they were there, they did what they needed to do to be able to win that game. Why? It works because, you know, Thomas Frank sets up in counter-attack. You're playing against a PSG team that is more attacking, wants to play on the front foot, but now and they commit bodies forward. Wing backs are flying, Mendes, Hakimi, you know, so once those spaces are there, it's easy to go direct and kind of hurt them. The problem is the Premier League isn't like that. You're meeting teams where, and ironically, Spurs have struggled more at home. Why? Because this strategy that they're able to set up against the PSG or a Dortmund and get success in those games, it doesn't work when you're at home and you're playing against, I don't know, an Everton or a Newcastle or a Villa, because you're at home, you're meant to play with the ball, you're meant to attack. Now, when they try to do that and kind of set up in an idealistic way to be more on the front foot, they get hurt. And like, I think the placements, if you look at their home and away records, tell a vivid story. Away, they're a bit more successful because they can afford to go set up, sit back, and then while those teams are trying to apply the pressure and be more attacking, they take advantage of those spaces, they score, or they score through set pieces. But you're not having that because, Spurs, again, like I said, like foundationally, the real and the core fans of the fan base are more affiliated with a team that plays attacking, like free-flowing football. So at home, they're crying, they're baying for that. They're booing when you're sitting back. So I think that pressure has a negative impact because you're not in control of, like, I don't think ideally that's how Thomas Frank wants to play. He doesn't want to almost come out and like adjust his style to what the crowd is yearning for, and yeah, I think ultimately it just didn't work out for him. I think it was a mismatch between expectation, club size, and what he was perhaps prepared for. From a recruitment standpoint, like compared to what managers before him experienced, like I mean, Pochettino, who was even before all of these guys, had like a net spend that was competing with Southampton back then. So I can't even say like he wasn't backed relative to others. He was backed. He also had the opportunity to be with a director of football who kind of brought him in. Similar to what Conte had, to be fair, with Paratici. He had Lang, who was like, they had this, what would I call it? Danish, Swedish, Scandinavian connection where like that was his guy. Like they wanted him, they appointed him, right? So there was at least that alignment to be able to get your ideas adapted by the, for lack of a better word, the executive team and get that buy-in to go after the players that you want. So
yeah, I think we'll probably put a pin on the Spurs conversation because we're still going to get into the weekend games and some of the other games that have happened over the last week. But I wanted us to jump into a big talking point this week. That's the Real Madrid game. I think that was one that was all over the internet at the time. I actually didn't even know that there was a game. I only knew through No Fly Zone. I think Maiwa was mentioning something. I was like, oh, I didn't even know there was Champions League this week. And I tuned in, and we all saw the incidents that at this point has kind of been seen all over the world with Vinicius Jr. I'll give you the first word as a Real Madrid fan. Thoughts on that incident?
Man, that was a tough one. It was a tough one because it's not isolated. I'd say football kind of mirrors society in a sense where racism is something that we still deal with every day. But I'd say the key things that kind of stood out to me were more so the reactions. The reaction from Jose Mourinho in particular caught me off guard because if anybody has known Jose, he's been stand-up for like 20 years. He's just been a guy that says it as it is, to hear his remarks, to hear almost the tired, worn out black friend card that he tried to play with Eusebio. Man, where is this going? You're literally in a scenario where a player has scored a beautiful goal. What do we watch football for? Watch football for entertainment. It'd be a different case even if he scored a tap-in, for Christ's sakes. Like, man, if he wants to celebrate that in a big way, maybe it's the fact that it's the Champions League, the fact that it's the playoffs and we get to go a step further. Whatever the reason, he deserves to celebrate how he wants to. He scored a beautiful goal, goes over to the flag, he dances. And again, like, there's just this thing about, like, the how do I phrase this? Just the perception of actions dependent on who is deploying or exhibiting those actions. Like, for Christ's sake, we saw Griezmann dance for over 2 years, but is it because it's a fortnight dance that people don't get as offended with that? We've seen other players of different heritage.
Brazilians have been dancing in front of the flag for years.
For decades. And shout out to
Literally.
Cameroonians. My wife is Cameroonian, so I have to shout them out. that dance took me back to Roger Miller, you know, in the 90s, like early 90s, you know, at the corner flag. Like, what if he was trying to pay tribute, for Christ's sakes? Like, this guy is allowed to do that. He goes to dance. Fans are like throwing things at him, objects, all that stuff. Hey, they're allowed to do that too. That's how they feel about it. We see that in England all the time. That's fine. But then the part that just goes overboard is, you know, the guy, I don't want to mention his name, partly because, I don't want to butcher his name. But then also, I just don't feel like he deserves any of the, I don't know, popularity or notoriety, whichever it was that he was going for. I don't think he deserves either of it. But, you know, the Benfica guy goes over and, you know, and it's not the first time too, because people have come with different theories like, oh, but what do you know that he was saying under his breath? People talk under their shirts all the time. What you actually notice footballers doing, basketballers doing, what they do is they actually have conversations under their shirts. What you don't see is one guy flat out just like saying words under his shirt, and the other guy is just like offended by it. You don't see that. These are typically conversations that they want to stay hidden because mics are everywhere. Everything is sort of always put out there these days for entertainment or content, whatever the case may be. So it was just, you know, to see that happen, for there to be the immediate, like you could see Vinny, like, man, and again, it's Vinny. Like, Vinny is provocative. No doubt about that, right? Like, he gets up under people's skins. People get up under his skin, which is even the bigger reason why it should be clear that a line was crossed here. Because he has this almost every other game where, like, he and players go back and forth. Maybe one player, maybe two players, right? But he's not coming out and being like, oh, this guy called me racist. No, he's not doing that. Even in that same game, he and Otamendi went back at each other a couple times. Otamendi is also Argentinian, so it can't be like a thing of, oh, he just chose an Argentine. You know, no, it wasn't that. It was that this guy flat out said something that was flagrant to him, and he right away pointed out like, yo, this guy said this and that. And obviously everything blows off. Key things to know, obviously, the Jose reaction was just horrible. Trying to almost like place the responsibility on Vinny to have curtailed his celebration. And I'm like, Josie, you of all people, like, you're probably the manager with the most overboard celebrations of all time. Like, we can remember so many moments. The knee slide at Old Trafford, the new camp celebration with Inter Milan with the sprinklers firing away, the Sevilla celebration. Like, bro, you
Even at Porto.
like, those are the things I love about him, because it's like, man, you're expressing yourself. Nobody can tell you how much this moment means to you. You know, like beating United at that point, I know how much it meant to him, because it was like, this was his statement to the Premier League to say, I'm not just this random out of the box manager in Portugal. I'm here. I beat your best here in their stadium. This is who I am. Same thing, doing that to Barcelona at their peak with an Inter side that where nobody expected those guys to win. Like, so again, it was the same thing. It's like, Barca, you guys passed on me. I was here as a translator. I wanted to become a coach. You guys turned me down multiple times. This is my statement to you. You know, I love those things. So how can you now turn around and then be the guy that's policing celebrations? Yeah, that was off. And I'd say beyond that, it's also just telling that, you know, beyond Pep, and shout out to Pep, man. Everybody that knows me knows that I've always felt Pep is a checkbook manager. He has never really gotten the ratings in my book. I've been a Jose guy. But ironically, man, his stance recently on just humanity, whether it's with Palestine, you know, the racial incident, just speaking up for immigrants, just humanity. I think that has really elevated him a lot, because at the end of the day, what's all this stuff about? Like, if we're not at our core, if we're not humans, if we're not like good people, if we're not trying to be good to our neighbors, all this stuff is meaningless. For me, that's why I watch sports. Again, I always go back to individuals who do things that inspire me. Because outside of that, then why am I even supporting any of these clubs? It doesn't matter to me. I might as well go back home and support my Enugu Rangers. Why am I here? Oh, I'm an Arsenal fan. It doesn't mean, are you from North London? You're not. So it's like, unless that thing speaks to you and inspires you in a particular way. And what are those ways? Beyond winning, beyond excellence on the pitch, I think off the pitch, there has to be a significant impact on your life, the way you deal with other people, the way you deal with particularly people you don't know. I think that's really what sports is about, for me at least.
That's well said, man. Very well said. Samko, you got into it in one of our group chats with one of our guys, very passionately defended, your stance on the whole racism thing. And I think a lot of us are all aligned on the fact that has no place on the football pitch. But you've heard Sidney, you've obviously shared your thoughts, but just as a follow-up to that, what did you make of the entire debacle?
I mean, I really echo what Sid said. I think he broke it down perfectly because if there's one thing about sports, or if there's one thing I know that is very uniform among sports all across the globe, is the respect that you have for even your fellow competitors, right? But even before we go deep into that whole respect of your fellow competitors, first of all, it's like everyone is human. Like we need to always put that at the back of our mind. Like this is what or how you decided to treat a fellow human being. I'm not the greatest fan of Vinny, right? I didn't really get to watch the game. It was funny. It was the group chat I was in with Seed. And that was where I noticed what was happening. I was like, seriously, what exactly is going on? And one of the other group chats where you said I had the conversation with the other friend that we had was because I saw when he said, oh, like Vinny just scored a goal, celebrated, and he got a yellow card. So I didn't even have a context of what was happening, right? But I just looked at the message and I kept it moving. So it was right after work. I'm seeing the incidents, I'm seeing the clips, and I find myself just getting like more irritated, right? And it took me back to that group chat again because it felt like, wait, like, did you literally just come out and say people are making an excuse to, or giving that room for like racism? Like, no, I don't care what club you represent. I don't care what country you represent. Like I said, first things first is like you're a human. You treat humans as humans. You treat them as with respect, sorry. And when I saw the video of the Benfica guy, when he literally put his hand on the shirt over the mouth and made whatever comment he made, and when you see the reaction of Vinny immediately, that tells you everything. Literally. And I was really disappointed with Jose Mourinho because when I heard his comments and I heard how Benfica as a club as well, literally that same day, it's like they were trying to make a cover up as quickly as possible. And it made no sense to me. And when I saw, like, even before we got on call, we talked about like Vincent Kompany's presser and what he said. And I really loved what Vincent said because he literally said, when you have a leader of an organization, I don't know why there was something about that line that I love because you guys are leaders, right? You're setting examples. Benfica, you are a massive club in Portugal, right? You should be able to, if you come out and say one of your biggest or most popular player was black, that gives you the more reason to fight against whatever it is someone who is about to tarnish the image of your club is doing. But you guys are literally taking a different direction. And I was very, very disappointed in them. I was very disappointed in Jose Mourinho. I'm glad a lot of people have come out to like condemn those actions and stuff. And I hope people keep calling out whatever individuals or whatever situations that happen, because for me, in football, in any kind of sports, in any part of the world, be it at the workplace or anything, I don't think we should ever give room for racism at all, because you're just here to compete. That is the ultimate goal in this sport. You like that sport, you enjoy that sport, just like a competitor that you are, is the same way that he is. Because things haven't gone your way, doesn't mean you use words to almost put that person down. Because guess what? You're not better than him, just in the same way he's not better than you. It's the reason you guys are humans at first. That was just my take back. It was really sad to see that happening in 2026. See that happening in the Champions League. Yes, we hear these situations when it has to do with games, but come on, not on the grandest, biggest stage. That was a good game that I didn't get to watch the game, but I'm sure everybody was enjoying that game. We remember the game that happened a few weeks ago, but now you're taking the spotlight away from that game and you're literally changing it with this. I wish Jose handled it properly. I wish Benfica handled it properly. But most importantly, I hope the authorities threw the heaviest book at that player, because even when a lot of people are talking about investigations and you're not going to be able to prove, I don't care about proving anything. Why are you putting your shirt over your face to say something?
I know it's interesting, right? That thing didn't happen once. If you actually watch after Vinny gets the yellow card, he runs over the first time, puts
Yeah,
his shirt over his mouth, and
and say
says some
something. I
words.
haven't even seen that clip.
But Vinny didn't actually hear it that time. So my thing is there's so many layers to it and why that like affects me so much. If you go to watch Benfica's pre-game post before that game, they put up a wallpaper. They had Mbappe and Vinny on like this carriage, and then they had like their players almost like these guys as like hunters, right? With bow and arrows. And then on the strap of like this where he had the arrows, they had monkeys, like three monkeys, like almost like see no evil, say no evil, hear no evil on that, right? Is there a message there? Is there a reason you picked out, just these two black players to like have there? Then you watch the stadium, the fan reactions, you see multiple guys
Yes,
making monkey
yes.
gestures. Not one statement has come out from Benfica condemning not one.
That's
So
what
even
that's
if
what I was gonna share. Yeah.
even if you put the fact that okay, you're investigating quote unquote, and noticeably too, no Benfica player has come out in support of the guy. Like there's a reason for all these things. They're human beings. They know what's been said. You know, and again, if this individual, if you're even saying you didn't call him those names, you didn't call him a monkey. What did you call him?
Come out and say what you said.
At one point, you never even said what you said. Okay, you were misheard, which was like Benfica's, like, I think it was the worst PR moves, by the way, in the history of PR moves. Like, these guys released a video
The
saying,
video.
oh no, he couldn't have heard.
Look at the distance
You can see
between
it's
them.
less than 2 feet. Like, we've all
Yeah,
played football, you know? So for that to be your response, it was just tone deaf. But anyways, yeah.
That was my
So
biggest disappointment, actually, when it came to Mourinho and Benfica. When it comes to the two people at the center of this, Mourinho and Vinicius, they've never really been my favorite people. But like you guys have shared, there's no space in the world where that translates into, racial discrimination or anything. And when I think about Mourinho and specifically Benfica, like Sid has pointed out, I don't know if I missed it, but I think what was interesting to me is we're doing all this misdirection, but I'm not seeing any sense of, as an organization in the case of Benfica, or as an elder statesman in the game in the case of Mourinho, come out flat out and say, this behavior that we are accusing this gentleman of perpetrating on the soccer pitch is not something that we stand by. Whether I understand Mourinho trying to take away, some of the heat from his player. Not that I agree with it, but you can see that that's really where he's leaning towards. But I think there's a delicate dance there where you can maybe accomplish some of that, but also come out strongly to condemn, racism in all forms in football and anywhere else. And that is the part that I think was a big, big missed opportunity for Benfica and Mourinho, and it's really, really disappointing. Really
it's funny.
disappointing.
It's funny. Say they even brought back I forgot that actually the ones about the fans. Like literally during that game, you could see there are videos that have been coming out saying fans making monkey noises and doing like the monkey dance and everything, and you have heard nothing from Benfica. And it's even surprising that up until today, we've heard nothing from Jose Mourinho as well. I don't know if he has put out a statement or the club has put out a statement, and it's like, come on, guys. Like, are you guys literally saying that you will not condemn what has just happened with the amount of evidence that is out there. You guys have still not come out to say anything. So I think even outside the player being cautioned, not even cautioned or punished, I think even the club as well do deserve to hold some smoke as well as an organization, that you are not coming out to even say, look, we stand against this. This was wrong. We'll do our own for that. Absolutely nothing has come out. That is just utter
Disappointing.
shambles, man.
I think UEFA are also in a very difficult spot, and maybe Mourinho to a degree, right? Because now clearly there's an ongoing investigation. The streets know how we feel about it, but at the end of the day, due process is due process, right? They still have to kind of go through what they have to go through and gather as much information. The fact of the matter is, on that pitch, UEFA is going to have to now get into this he say, she say kind of situation and gets very difficult, right? But a statement would have been enough, in my opinion, or at least a good start from, Mourinho, Benfica saying, we stand against all forms of racism. That is not, in a sense, condemning your player, throwing your player under the bus directly. It's just saying this thing that this guy's been accused of is not something we, as an organization, we associate ourselves with. And like I said, it's a really big missed opportunity. And I think what this should do is really open up the conversation. I think Sidney has shared it. Like, sports is just really a mirror of life, like a mirror of society. You see those guys on the stand doing that. If they were emboldened enough to do that in the game, that's who they are, really, in my opinion, right? And so we really need to take a step back and have conversations with ourselves and say, we don't. This should not always be a big thing just because it happened on the pitch. We should really be. This fight should be consistent. Should be constant. How do we kick racism out of society? Period. Right. We shouldn't have to wait for this big moment and then we start doing performative action. You see the ref doing like this on on TV. Is like,
I mean, I'll take this over the knee every day. Because that, I think I mentioned to someone how much I hated that nonsense. For us to kneel down and like, I'm sorry for the racism to your forefathers. They could get out of here, man. put in actual policy and legislature to ensure this never happens again. Don't come and apologize to me for the ones that happened to my forefathers. Nah, what are you doing today?
What are you doing about this one?
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
And it's not symbolic gestures. It's like actionable
actions.
That
What do you guys expect? So before we wrap up this segment, what do you guys expect will happen? Like, we don't know what UEFA is going to do, but from your standpoint, both of you, what would you like to see happen?
I mean, what I'd like to see happen and what I expect to happen are two different things. I think at the end of the day, everything's political too. From a political lens, I know that FIFA, UEFA know that this has gotten too big where they can't do nothing. So they'll do something. But in the same vein, they're not going to do too much. It's the way I'll call it, a slap on the wrist. Maximum suspension, the player gets 5 tops maximum, in my perspective.
5?
5.
Jesus.
What did Suarez get again? Was it like 8?
Hey, sorry.
He can't be getting 5, man.
Suarez, I can't even remember.
Let me check.
They threw the book at Suarez, that I remember.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I feel like 5. Obviously, again, all these things are very, like, everything's nuanced. We can't play ourselves here. The fact that this has happened to Vini, carries some weight. We're talking about a Ballon d'Or nominee here. The fact that it happened to Real Madrid carries some weight. It would happen to players in some clubs and we don't even hear about it. In this case, it's almost too big to ignore. So because of
and
that,
stage too, the stage,
Champions League playoffs, because of that, there'll be action. I just don't think it's something that sends a strong message. I think Benfica would also get sanctioned because, again, the evidence is overwhelming. There's the normal failure to conduct your fans or to control your fans, something to that degree. They definitely have to catch that. So I know that there'll be some financial sort of fines levied against them, maybe to the tune of, I don't know, a couple 100,000 thereabouts. They may be hit with disciplinary sanctions of I don't know, couple game suspensions. Again, just nothing.
Suarez was 8 games.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
Right? Just nothing deafening, like not a deafening blow. There's a way you treat an incident like this, and you literally ensure that moving forward, this gets stamped out.
Shake the
Because
room.
everybody just gets the message right away.
Mhm.
Not about
Yeah.
flooding our message with kick racism out of
Nah.
and X sign, kneel down. No, like if you throw the book at these guys, everybody gets the message right away that
Yeah.
this is just unacceptable and is not something that will be tolerated moving forward. Right? And we'll see if they do that. I just don't see it.
Final words for you guys. We've talked about Mourinho and how we handled it, and obviously we don't quite agree with that. But one guy that unanimously has come out and gotten props is Vincent Kompany for his press conference. What did you guys make of that?
Man, I loved it. You know, I think Vinny is a leader of men in a true sense and in every sense. I was talking to a couple of my boys today and I said, you know, you hear some people speak and you almost have an appreciation for how they were raised. And I think that's evident in Vinny. He's always been sort of class personified, polished, very well spoken, confident, you know, a lot of those things that really, you know, speak to me in particular. Um, the way he delivered his message, I think was standout because in a lot of cases, right? Like, and again, like say for example, like I think everybody, even on this group, on this medium right now, has dealt with racism in one way, shape, or form. Like I've dealt with racism, and the way I deal with it is perhaps different because, man, like you're not going to hurt me with your words. Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Like I've had people be racist towards me and I literally laugh in their faces, you know? And it's like, bro, like who are you? I'm not going to give you that edge or the belief even. I'm not going to let you walk away with the belief that what you've said has had any negative impact on me. Absolutely not. You don't even deserve that. Right? So I think Vinny's message was polished in a sense where he was focused on the behavior, not the people, not antagonizing these people. Because realistically, anybody that has to resort to racism as an insult is a small
He's
person.
a small person. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like these are small-minded individuals that feel like they need to almost stand on this lever to say something that makes an impact. You know, it's kind of like childish, where it's like, you know, I feel like you're not listening to me, so I'm going to throw tantrums. I'm going to throw my toys out of bra. That's the way I see these individuals, you know? And I think Vinny kind of spoke to that, where it's like, you're not really attacking these people because they clearly need help. You know, like for you to feel like that's a way for you to communicate tells me a lot about you.
About you.
You know, you're small. You need help. You need a big bro, right? You know, and now like, and that's essentially what Vinny did to them. He literally big broed all of them, including Jose. And I'm
Including
just,
Jose. Very
man,
true.
like, bro, this guy is telling you how to act. Vinny, like you could have coached Vinny, like, you know, and he pointed out, rightfully so too, that Jose is not like over the course of his career, he's never had one bad word from all the multiple, you know, black players that Jose has managed, African players that Jose has managed, you know. But to see this, which as I mentioned in No Fly Zone today, it's really one of those peculiar moments where, you know, personal values sort of collide with organizational values. And seeing the way Benfica's reacted, you know, you can read in between the lines about what their stance is on racism. And Jose is almost kind of leaned towards them,
that. Yeah.
almost like noticing that he can't speak against the club because the club's values are on the floor, right? So to be a club man, which Jose has always kind of, in quotes, prided himself on, you know, with every club he's been, he's tried to do that at the wrongest time possible. And I think his reputation takes a significant damage from this.
Yeah. I think that's it. We'll close that segment out. I think that's well said. We'll put a pin on that so that we can jump right back into some of the other football stuff. I know Sidney, we're gonna get into the Arsenal section very soon. And this is where I hate listening to this guy, man.
Well,
I'll tell you something, right?
This one can literally be an hour segment on this own.
Yeah. I'll tell you guys something. Like, I think I give it, like, I think I shared this on the last episode. I give the banter as well as I receive it. I want all the smoke. But there are a few people I'm like, oh, let me see the rubbish they're going to say. I'm like, oh, I gotta go deep in the bag. Sidney is one of them. So it's like, stress, man. I'd rather you just keep quiet. Because he's gonna have to bring out something in me, But yeah, it was, from an Arsenal standpoint, I think we just have to call it what it is. It was a very difficult week for us in terms of the last result, Samco, going into the Wolves game. I don't think if you speak to 10 Arsenal fans, you get one person that expected that result, right? To go away to Wolves, especially when you go up 2-0 and come away with 1 point. Honestly, feels like a defeat at this point. Some people think that's really damaging to the title aspirations, but we'll let you kind of just unpack the game. You've seen our internal memos going off. I kind of just put it on mute for now, but because I'm like, listen, I have to unpack my own. I can't help you.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
Actually, to be honest, it was, I don't even know the word to describe that performance. I think diabolical is me kind of even being nice when I use the word diabolical too, because like you said, no one expected that result, right? You're going into the game, you're 2-0 up against literally the worst team in the league, bottom of the table. You're literally comfortable. And you literally throw the game away, right? Because you had opportunities to also kill the game off. Not only did you not kill the game off, you literally threw the game away, right? So I was watching the game, and at the same time, I was watching Inter Milan and Bodo Glimt's game. 2-0, I have my focus on Inter and Bodo Glimt, like I'm doing other scouting missions. And the next thing, I just see, I saw the 2-1. I saw the 2-1 and I was like, oh, wow, that was a beautiful goal and stuff like that. Again, comfortable, not paying any, like I had no worries. And the next thing is 2-2. And I was so irritated at the performance because it's one of those games that I looked at it. I've had the opportunity to go back and watch the game. And I'm asking myself, like, where are my leaders on this pitch? But even if I'm asking myself, where are my leaders? Please, why do I need leaders on a pitch against Wolves when you're comfortably 2-0 up? I do not need my captain or my senior players telling you people on what to do, right? When you find yourself in a title race is a different ball game. You've been here in 2 different seasons, right? Let me even put away the first season where we went for the title. Let me go to 2023, 2024, right? That is one of the title races that I said I couldn't even come at Mikel because last 18 games, you say you want to win the title. Arsenal had 16 wins and 16 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, right? And it tells you how much of a margin that can switch things up, be it momentum, be it mentality, be it pressure, right? I'm one of those people, like, even sometimes when I criticize games, I could criticize one very little part of a game and a lot of people will see it differently. And for me, it's like, no, you're not in a top 4 race. You're not in a relegation race. You're not trying to just survive. This is a title race. There are little things that happen that changes the course of a season, changes the course of a game, and changes literally everything for that team. And literally, that was what I saw in that game. How are you 2-1 up? This is a team that you have been criticized a lot. Even the manager has been criticized a lot that you like to control game. We lost total control of this game. Like, we had in the second half, we were being disposed of the ball. Usually when Arsenal lose the ball, we lose the balls to like throw-ins, corner kicks, fouls, or something. That is how our opponents get. In this particular game, especially in the second half, that wasn't the case. We were literally being bullied at times, being disposed of the ball. There were times Timber had the ball and he would literally just give it away. So those were the things that actually got to me in the game, even more than the results, because it's like you don't need to be told when you have been in this position before. And in a game like that, it's not like you were even having the greatest game and you were 2-0 up. So for you to have that and you throw it away, I think it was diabolical from both the players. I had my issues with Mikel as well. So now you find you I think they need to find themselves very, very happy and when I say happy, not like rejoice based on the results, but I'm looking at it like you see the points in terms of the cushion that we've had up until now. This is what it has done for you. Like literally that cushion that you've literally, in my opinion, I think you have exhausted it, right? Because when you look at our last 7 to 8 games, you have what? 2 wins, 4 draws, I think, and a loss to Manchester United. Those cushions is what has you where you are today. So if that is not enough warning or bells are not ringing in your head, then it tells me that whatever critic, whatever names that you are being called, it is fair and it is warranted. So that was literally that was literally my point after watching the game the second time. It was an extremely horrible watch and something to experience.
I'm not gonna be as kind in my assessment. Honestly, I'm still like I don't think I've looked at any football news. It's like I'm still in denial of men. We actually went and shot the bed against Wolves. You know what I mean? And for me, it's always a tough one because I can't separate my innate natural habits, how I carry myself in my personal and professional life. You have to be objective. You have to look at the stats and everything in front of you and come to reasonable assessment. And that's why I'm not as positive, right? The first thing that comes to my mind is it's easy for results to bias analysis, right? Because if that second goal doesn't go in, we look at it as a gutsy 3-point win. But the truth of the matter was it was a bad performance, especially in that second half. It didn't show anything about control. If we got the 3 points, would have gotten away with it, right? And so that has been developing for some time now, especially in the league, right? The FA Cup was a breeze. The Champions League has been what it is. And why that's concerning to me is the analogy that quickly comes to mind is basketball. You have a lot of guys, they can shoot a lot of threes and make a lot of threes. But when it gets tight in the fourth quarter, the guy that's been shooting 42% from the three suddenly starts to become a 28% shooter. He's still the same shooter, still the same guy. It's just the pressure is now higher. And that's what I'm seeing down the stretch where it's like, okay, guys, if you're serious, this is where you go and get it. If you want it, you have to go and get it. And the inability to go close out a game where you're 2 goals up against Wolves is very concerning to me. And I think that is something that we have to have serious conversations now about, like, because you're going into this is squeaky bum time, right? It's 10 games or 11 games to go in the league. And this is where you really want to be ramping it up, not the other way around. Like, I think, what is it? Is it Brentford or something? I was seeing some really ridiculous stat that they have more points than us in 2026. That is not how you want to be going into the final stretch. And so you have to analyze that on its merits, that this is not good, right? So that was really disappointing for me. This is where we bring our guests to come on and laugh in our face, right? So
Oh man. It was great to hear you guys go, to be honest. Because I like to hear the Arsenal perspective to see how you guys actually feel about it. From my perspective is a story that I know too well.
man,
If I want to focus on the performance, you know, a lot of teams sort of are built around their manager and almost mirror their manager. You know, watching that Wolves game was very it's almost everything that Arteta is. You know, you're feeling the pressure, you're pretending is not there, it's showing in the games, it's showing in your team. Man, I think it was the first time. Now I know that Arsenal are notorious for, delaying before corner kicks, delaying after corner, like the timeline in set piece deployment has them at the top end of delays, right? But I remember a moment that I visibly just saw these guys confused around who was going to take a corner kick. And it's like Rice going at Izzy going at Rice, and then Rice just goes and then he takes a set piece that, like, in a million years, that's just not even how you guys deploy. And I'm looking at this, before you guys consider, right?
Yeah.
And there's a problem here, and you manage teams, whether it's in daily life or you watch teams, and you almost start to notice dysfunctions in teams, and that was a moment of dysfunction within that team that I saw, right? And then you're almost like you're playing Wolves, but then you're almost, taking a defensive stance against a team that up until that point had not reached double digits for the season in points, and you're top of the league. They have nothing to fight for. Like, for all intents and purposes, Wolves are going to get relegated. Like, they know. So it's like, but and you know how the Premier League is. If a team smells blood, they just keep coming. They just keep coming at you, and I know this so well because Spurs are very notorious for moving like that. So I'm watching that game and it's like, no, you guys are not going to do it. You're actually not going to do it. No, there's no way. There's no, like, it's one of those ones. And then you just like, no, man. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, and I'll be the first to say Arsenal have been the best team this season. One thing I'll never do is rob anybody of their flowers. Arsenal have been the best team this season. But this is also, in the same vein, this is who you are. Like, you're a team that you start very well, you look good when there's nothing at stake. When the going is good, everything looks good. Arteta's coming out, sounding more clever than he actually is, all good. The problem is when push comes to shove. Who are you in those moments? Once it's February and the lights are on, who are you? I'm watching Arteta's press conference today, and this guy is saying, I'm not focused on what all these other people are saying. I'm focused on Rob Edwards. He told me in his press conference and even after the game that we're the best team by far. And I'm like, oh man, I see why you get gut. That's not the hallmark of a leader. What leader do you know comes out to say in a moment where you haven't gotten the result that you want? Oh yeah, those guys that actually just screwed me over told me that I'm the best thing since life. Since when has that worked as a motivational, approach? And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You've done this before. Oh, CEOs contact me. And it's like, if you have to say that, if you genuinely have to disclose that a Premier League manager who wasn't a manager for the greater half of this season, and last we saw him was in the Championship, first of all, how much value does that hold? Rob Edwards thinking, okay, but then to feel the need to disclose that, to feel the need to tell us that he messaged you after the game to tell you you're the best team by far, you're almost trying to reassure everyone, including yourself, that you are who you think you are. I don't know what that does for your team. I prefer a manager that comes out and says, listen, this is a journey. This is a race. I think my guys are the best team in this league. I think they've shown that for the majority of this league. We know it's a long race. There's going to be ups and downs, but I'm back in these guys to go back and get the form that, forget all the other noise. Like, just dial in with your guys. And there's clearly something there because, again, like, one time is fluke, 2 times is like maybe even coincidence, but 3 times for this to happen, and now we're like on the 4th chapter, bro. Like, it's almost like that, like, everybody kind of knows, but like pretends it's not gonna happen, like, except Arsenal fans, of course, because you want to, like, believed that this time is going to be different. But man, you don't want City ever smelling blood around you. You don't want Pep ever smelling blood around you. Because the people in that dressing room, they've done it over and over again. They know what it takes to get it done. You know, so if Arsenal, you're going to be that team that opens that door to City, I mean, what we see in May, we're going to have to take. If I was a betting man today, I'd say I like my chances. I like where the opposition sits on this one. Because man, even starting this weekend, I think Arsenal are gonna. Because man, like if I'm the manager of any other team, I'm literally telling my guys, look at Wolves. These guys had 9 points, 2 points away from Arsenal. Why can't you? Why not you? You know, like, man, I think you fired up the base, basically. I think everybody believes, including Spurs, that really absolutely had no belief this season, especially at home. I think everybody looks at Arsenal and thinks, hey, why not us?
I think that's one of the things about football that I like, right? It's like momentum always swings very quickly based on results and all that. It's funny, there was something you said that I actually did notice. The thing you said about the Eze and Rice corner kick, right? When I didn't say that when it actually happened, but I saw it when I was watching the game. And I literally said to myself, which is one of the things that I've criticized Mikel for, is what that told me was they were not prepared for that moment. Why? Because our set pieces are done in a certain way. The way we play is done in a certain way. So if you look at the team, we had no left in swingers on the pitch. There was no Noni, there was no Saka on the pitch, right? And immediately they had the opportunity. Rice is looking at Eze and Eze is looking at Rice like, okay, who is going to take that free kick, right? That is where I expected Rice, who I consider one of the leaders there, to go out there and you take the corner kick. But what surprised me, like you said, was they went short. And in my head, I'm like, why are you going short when all you just need to do is put it in the box?
Like you normally do.
Results. Again, it took me, and that's why I said it got me at that point, and I said, this is a problem that I have with Mikel and some of, for example, Odegaard that I've criticized and said, I want players who you don't always have to take instructions from the headmaster. There are times that you just need to take that decision by yourself and say, this is what is going to be suitable for this very moment, right? And I really did wish that was a situation that happened. But coming back to the end of your stuff, when you talked about momentum and everything, I think that for now, everyone is going to look at it like, okay, the momentum has swung to Man City's side, right? This is a team that went to Anfield and they won, what was the score again? 2-1? 2-1, right? Yeah, they won 2-1 at Anfield and everything, right? So definitely the momentum has gone towards City. But guess what? There is no title race that comes without pressure. If there's one thing about the Premier League will never be handed to you. Never. You're going to have to go take it. Right? So now you find yourself in this position. Like I said, you've had a cushion. The cushion has saved you and brought you to this moment. You have, 11, 12 games. Now you have to go out there and take it. Because if you're not able to take it, it is done for each and every one of you.
I know you said there's no Premier League without pressure. Would we say Liverpool had pressure last season?
No, they didn't, right? But to me, the reason I'll say they didn't is the second half of the season, I don't think they had pressure. I think at the beginning because at that point, Arsenal had all kinds of injuries. Man City had all kinds of injuries and they were done, right? If I remember was it end of January or early February? There was no push from any of those teams. There was no way any of those teams were going to be able to pressure them, right? But at the beginning of the season, I think there was pressure. I don't just believe pressure starts at the end or the running of the season. Yes, there are different types of pressure. But for you to be able to win those games back to back, mentality, take maximum points, I think that is also pressure as well, right? So for me, Liverpool, I'll say yes. Sorry, I'll say no, there was no pressure, but that pressure just didn't come towards the end of the season, right? If you look at the other seasons prior to that, they've always been pressure.
I think the top performers in any sport find a way to reduce the moments. I think that's what separates the very best from everybody
What do you mean
else.
reduce the moments?
I think Liverpool went out every week and just did what they had to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And almost made it seem like there was no pressure. I'll tell you, as an outsider looking in, there was a time at this point of this same season where I felt like the league was done.
So that's why I said, that's why I said if you think back to it, it was around, I think it was right after the January transfer window, because I remember that was when we had the Havertz, the Sakas, I think is it Trossard or Martinelli? And everybody was injured. Same thing with City. So at that point, there was no pressure from any of those two teams on Liverpool. Because if you go look at Liverpool's results, even at the second half of the season, you could see they didn't have the greatest of results, but that was because there was no pressure. There was nothing for them to play for anymore. And I think, what was the gap in last season? Was it 10 points?
Yeah, but that's when it was almost like it was 16 points, something ridiculous. And then at the end, it kind of became 10. It's like
I remember, I actually want to go check it. I think it was end of transfer window, January.
But what I remember about their run is that it just almost felt like they were just clinical. Like it almost felt like they snuffed out hope from every other team. Like they made every other team feel like, nah, forget it, it's done. Which Arsenal did for large periods of this season.
Yes.
But then everybody almost kind of felt like, but you're Arsenal though. We know what you're going to be like in February. And I think even for City, I think that even spurred them on. Like, I think going for the Guehi and Semenyo is kind of like, it's Arsenal though. If we can get these guys and knowing who these guys are in February, we think there's a chance. Even though absolutely nothing about City's football prior to January screamed title contender. Absolutely nothing.
Did you think City were going to be title contenders at the beginning of the season?
I would say yes. I expected them to be, right? But then it became very clear that they just didn't have it in them. And we talk about injuries. They also had their fair share. You know, they also had their fair share at critical roles. And like, it almost felt like they couldn't just get things sorted out at the back, conceding all kinds of like schoolboy errors and goals. And then it feels like if Hazard isn't scoring, if Haaland isn't scoring, then like it's just not going to happen. Just felt very one-dimensional. And then they go out and get a center back and perhaps one of the most prolific wingers in the league. And it's like, oh, game on. Which for me is also another, like I can point that back to you guys and be like, this is why you guys are not where you want to be. Because how you pass up an opportunity like that is crazy to me. Like how you pass up on a player that is a boyhood Arsenal fan, declared publicly, to a position that you know you need an upgrade on. You know, like, and that's one thing my issues with Arsenal are too many. Like the more I go into it, they just keep unraveling.
Please get into it.
Trossard, for example, and this is one of the problems you guys have always had. You know, it's not particularly about not signing the right players, but also knowing when to get rid of players. You literally allow players get past their useful life. A player like Trossard, a serious team gets rid of him at the end of last season because he's still, like, he's shown you who he is with just enough left in the tank for you to be able to generate a healthy 30+ million from him. You hold for too long. He plays this season, that drops. What are you going to get from a Trossard now? I don't know how you even get 20 for Trossard in the summer. But you could have got 30+ for him. You could have gone in for Semenyo, who, if we remember clearly last summer, had a release clause and almost hung out, kind of like Eze too, in very similar fashion, I would say, waiting for Arsenal. Because it was the worst kept secret what the exact number on his release clause was. So you fumble that, you hold for too long. Now, even worse than that, you allowed your arch rival get a player like that pivotal. And man, like it's hurting you on both fronts because in that position, like look at Martinelli against Wolves. Like this guy's coming out giving 2-1 sign, but is there missing every 2-on-1 opportunity that falls his way. Like, it's like, bro, like, are you being serious right now? Like, you could, oh man, it's a lot of things. Like, I'll just stop here for now. But it's a lot of things. Man, every segment I could go through it, man. Every segment, like the usage, the consistent usage of Timber, the decision to use him as this attacking outlet. Man, I don't know.
So, quick question: would you say, like I highlighted the fact of in the last 7 to 8 games, Arsenal have had, I think it's 2 wins, 4 draws, and a loss. Is there no part in that you look at it and you say just down to bad form or bad patch? Because I'm always the narrative everybody comes out with and they say, oh yeah, they're going to crack under pressure, right? And yes, like I said, every pressure is different. The season is not over yet, right? So if you look at their form in the last 7 games, would you call that a bad run of form, or you expect that to continue? And if you say you expect it to continue, based on what?
Based on history, man. Like,
But we can't use history.
When I say history, I mean when is go time, when is February.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not coincidence anymore that your team starts to unravel in February. You know, like, even from an FPL perspective, I literally backed Arsenal with like triple defense this past double game week, thinking comfortably you come up, because literally you play these games in the first half of the season. Arsenal's coming out of those 2 games with clean sheets. Like, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
Those teams are not teams that have sufficient, repeatable attacking quality to be as dangerous as they should be. And I will be the first to point out that Wolves actually gave you similar headaches in the first leg.
At Emirates,
You
yes.
know, where you guys had to win, like, I think 4th minute of injury time or something like
that.
Yeah.
So there are those teams. I don't want to call them boogie teams, but even I feel like, again, it was also a lapse in concentration and just not having the clinical, like your guys up front being clinical, which, again, if we're being honest with ourselves, like up front, man, it's been a dire story. Like, if we're calling it speed. Like, you can't have a striker that you signed for 67 million just popping up to score against promoted teams from the championship, like proving to us that he's truly that championship boy and perhaps maybe where he belongs. You can't have that. You can't have your star boy coming out 300k and I can count his goals on one hand. You can't have that. You can't have Trossard, Martin. Like, you can't have all these guys being like, you're able to count their goal tallies on one hand. Like, it's not a mark of winning teams. We can't look at your team and be like, man, you guys are like, you have the best defense. And even that was overrated. Like, when I look at Arsenal, and I think this will be the song in me, is this was one of the most overrated teams of all time.
When you say the defense was overrated,
we started the season. What were the conversations at the start of the season? The conversation at the start of the season was that this was a team that was going to break Chelsea's record of least goals conceded.
But who put out those narratives?
Part of it is your team, their performance, and then the fans who back it, who you see these visuals. Now, let's not act like we don't see them. Best center-back pairings, Saliba, Gabriel. We see those things, right? So this is where could we say they could have done it? They could have. Do they have the quality to do it? If we literally watch Arsenal week in, week out, do they have the quality to compete against that Chelsea team? I'd say absolutely. From a defensive point of view, for sure. Because you actually have control of most games. But now you're in a position where I don't think you even best like Pochettino's Spurs with Toby and Vertonghen, as crazy as that sounds. And theirs was 26 goals. I think Arsenal conceded at least 6 more goals this season. And I don't think Arsenal finished first this season. So I think we look back at this season and say, damn, you guys weren't even as good as Poch's Spurs that came second. We'll see.
Yeah, but I don't. It's funny because I remember Sam Cleveland texting me about that particular Chelsea record. I don't think any of us cares about it. Maybe other people do, but I remember he texting me, was like, do you actually care about this record? And my answer was no. Like, literally.
I mean, because you have bigger priorities, so I get it. Like, you haven't seen the league in 22 years, so of course I get it. That can be the focus, right? But
Not
if
even
it's like,
just
you
that,
can't do
right?
side
It's like
quests when you haven't delivered the main quest, right? But
no. I
the
don't think
team
it's
have
even
the quality to do it
no.
with
It
8
has nothing to do with
Sidneys
that.
or
I'll tell
6
you.
Sidneys.
I will explain my point of view. The reason I didn't care about it was obviously the main thing is the main thing, right? So I've always said if you go ahead and do it with 50 goals conceded, as long as you get it done, that's fine. But more importantly, it's like the landscape has changed. That is just clear. Every team now, except your Manchester United, you're going to play so many games through the course of the season. So realistically, you're not going to go full throttle with your whatever, like over the course of 50, however many games you're going to play. Like there are going to be gotchas. You're going to have to rotate. And it's pretty clear that there's a drop off in quality. I mean, we signed depth this season, but Gabriel and Saliba are going to be a lot different when you hear those names together than Mosquera and I don't know Hincapié for example. And so I think just the expectation that you're going to have to, like we're still competing on all four fronts, right? And that is because you're going to need buddies through the course of the season. I don't think anybody's going to be fit for the entire 38 game run of the season while playing Champions League, while playing FA Cup, while playing into the final of the Carabao Cup. So for for those reasons, it was never really my cup of tea. I just wanted what I wanted is kind of where I hope we're getting to now, where it's like you have a healthy enough team going into the final stretch of the season. That was more important to me than you're chasing some flimsy record that actually doesn't have much to do with anything.
Hey, fair. Like I said,
But
you
I mean,
know,
if you heard other people say that it mattered to them, like by all
No,
means, right?
definitely. Those narratives were out there. Like no one can come
No, I'm
out and
not.
say the
No. I'm
narratives
not
were not out there.
disputing that
Yeah.
it was
So
out there. Of course,
yeah,
we see the same things. I'm just saying to me, and you know this because it's we have it on record.
yeah.
It
we,
just never
we,
mattered to me. I was like, why are we making a big
and
deal
I
out of like?
and I feel like Arsenal fans largely. I don't know if you guys are part of those people, but I have a lot of Arsenal
There's too
friends.
many. There's too many of us for
It's
sure.
like too many, right? And I was talking to one of them, one of my boys yesterday, Obi, and I said, man, I feel so bad for Arsenal fans in this moment because I think it's win or bust. And here's why I say that. I feel like Arsenal fans have been like grown up with this philosophy of attacking football through Wenger and just enjoying when their team is just, playing on the front foot, creating chances. Beautiful football. I think it's been the hallmark of Arsenal for many years. And I feel like fans have largely been willing to just swallow that and just say, listen, we're down with this Arteta ball, provided he wins. But I think if for some unfortunate reason, which I can't even wish on you guys, because it will be devastating, to finish this season 0 for 4, I don't know how you guys look at the Arteta philosophy moving forward. I genuinely don't know. I think you guys have sold out largely and said, doesn't matter. This guy, as long as he wins, we're behind this football. If he's 1-0 to the Arsenal ball that we're going to be playing from now to end of season, we will enjoy it. Like Samko, Femi, you guys have hopped on the set piece train full time in overdrive. Why didn't we score this week in set piece? Oh, we haven't scored set piece today. I'm more annoyed that we didn't score set piece today. You guys have hopped on that. And it's interesting because it's almost like this set piece that was set up to be an edge for games that are almost impossible to unlock in low block situations has now become literally like the core strategy of getting goals. Like if and this was I was talking about a couple of my friends as well. If I'm not with my phone and I get a notification, or rather I'm not watching the game and I have my phone and I get a notification, City goal. First thought that comes to my mind is Haaland, right? If I get a notification Liverpool, I'm thinking like Salah, Ekitike, like if I get a
Wait, you
notification
stuck in 2023
for
with
Liverpool,
Salah? Are you
One of
stuck in
those guys.
2023?
I know. There's like a goal or assist, something,
All right,
something.
I'm just taking
Just
the piss.
naturally, right?
Yeah.
If I get 1-0 Arsenal, my first thought is set piece, Gabriel, Saliba, something like that, and I just fear that something that was set up to be this additional strength has almost overperformed its capability and has now masked what has been a deficient attacking system for large spells of the season where you've been bailed out by set pieces. I think the rest of the season is going to show more. But I think is an interesting position for Arsenal to be in.
Well, I think for me, again, when people come about and bring out this whole set piece thing, Femi knows I'm always going to jump on it when it comes to the set piece, right? Again, I think it's one of those narratives that people put out there to make it seem like, oh, this is what Arsenal is dependent on. And again, me, I do my research. I will always go and look. I watch our games again and everything, right? And when I look at the numbers in terms of the goals we've scored, the open play goals that we scored, and the goals we scored, when I look at it compared to the last season, it's all about the same, right? In terms of the open play goals this season, for example, if we want to use our attack, I'm not going to come out here to tell you that we've had one of the greatest attack this season, because again, I've criticized how our attack is, but I think that has been down to the manager, right? In terms of like the goals that has been scored, I think we're like 2-3 goals away from the most goals scored this season. When you look at the most goals scored in open play this season, we'll bet any money from the last time I checked, I think Arsenal was still second and all that, right? Most goals with set pieces, and this is just across the whole 20 teams in the league. It still comes out to Arsenal still gets that number one, right? And I think number two is like Manchester United or Chelsea. So for me, I think like there's this narrative out there that, oh, it is something that Arsenal do depend on. And I think it's a very false narrative, because if it's something that they depend on, like you correctly said, it's an edge that we do have, right? And is especially used for situations where we're unable to break those low blocks and everything, right? Now, taking it back to the style of play that a lot of us did grow up on, which is the Arsene Wenger's. I watched and enjoyed Arsene Wenger's football, right? But I also remember that in the dying moments of Arsene Wenger's term in Arsenal, sometimes we still played those exciting football. But did we, if that was really what we wanted and what we enjoyed, why did we still ask for him to leave, right? Then let's transition into like the Unai Emery and stuff, right? Sometimes Unai Emery played, sometimes enjoying football. I'll say to me, his greatest strength was using our attacking players that we had at that time. We were popping in the goals and everything. Why did we still ask him to leave? Now, coming back to Mikel, 2022, 2023, 2023, 2024, we played some scintillating, attacking, scoring football, right? But people still came out and said, that is not enough, right? So if you've done all that and you haven't achieved your goal, it's just like literally what Henry said some weeks ago. He said, we've literally asked him to win. That's the number one thing this manager has been like. This is the one thing everyone is going at him. And now we've asked him to win. Do I enjoy Arsenal football this season? No. You are one person that know how much I'm a big fan of Gyökeres. Have I enjoyed seeing Gyökeres this season? No. Have I gotten to see the player that I know? No. But guess what? We have asked him to win. Whatever it takes to win, brother, I don't care. I'm not going to come out to say, like, this season, for example, based on the players that we signed, Eze is one of my top 4, if not top 3 favorite players to watch in the league from time before he even came to Arsenal, right? Loved him and everything. We signed him, we signed Gyökeres, and I'm like, okay, our style of football is going to change. It's worse in terms of the attacking part of football, right? Femi can testify. There was a day I asked Femi this question. I said, in a situation where if we win the league this season, what do you think this team is going to be the following season? These are questions I've asked because, again, like I said, I do not enjoy the football, the attacking football that I'm used to, right? But now in a situation where no one cares about the attacking football. We've done the attacking football. We lost the league by 5 points. We've done the attacking football. We've lost the league by 2 points. Brother, haram, tie everything you have to tie. Throw every grenade you have to throw. I don't care about the football. And I'm sure like you could have a lot of the times this season, even like on the group chats and everything, I've not really had those kind of like conversation about the style of football that we play or anything. Because now I've literally got to realize that Mikel doesn't care about that right now. Because I've seen him play attacking football. I've seen him play pragmatic football. And now everybody have literally just said to him, just win. We've had people say, bro, just win the Carabao Cup. Right? Even if I've said that is not enough, some people have said just win. So in that same predicament, when I look at it, I said, bro, just win. Like I don't care about the style of football anymore.
You see, the thing is, I think Sidney is right in the sense that I do think Arteta is a single point of failure for Arsenal, and I think most of the fans accept that. But I also don't know that it's that big of a deal in the sense that it hasn't changed the color of how we've seen football. If we remove the anomaly that Pep and City has been over the last decade or so, when did we care? Like, in fact, we beat Arsenal for the opposite of these things that we're saying, you know, soft underbelly, cute football, whatever, just never get it done, right? We've seen Conte win the league with like what people call anti-football. You're a Jose fan, and one of the things that people used to accuse him of at the time was, you know, defensive minded. And it doesn't matter because when we talk about the greatest of all time, in my mind, Mourinho is going to be there or thereabouts in terms of like where people would have him. But nobody cares about how we got it done. And so it's like, why then are we now looking at the league in a very different way? It's like we're almost trying to measure to the Pep standard, which I understand because that has been the standard for the last decade or so. But if this guy goes on to win the league with Haram or whatever it is we want to call it, I think most Arsenal fans will be happy for exactly the same reasons that Sidney has mentioned. However, the opposite is also true. If you don't win it, then we're going to have serious conversations. It's just, it's a 0-1 thing, right? It's like, that's just how it goes, right? You're measured by what you end up achieving and nobody cares. Like we spent a good portion of the time talking about Ange and Spurs. And you made mention of the fact that this man had to do a risk analysis and say the league is far gone. I'm going to basically put my chips in and win. That was a very high leverage strategy that could have gone belly up, right? Because you could have messed it up and then now you're looking at no Europe and then you're still 17th. So I think when it comes to this Arsenal thing, and I understand it, I'm a football guy, I'm objective, I'm rational enough to understand why the discussions are the way they are. But it almost seems like we have very different expectations. If you win, nobody cares. It's that simple.
Yeah. And I completely agree. I just think, just to be clear, right? I just think that if Arteta plays this way and come May, you go 0 for 4, I think the frustration is even more.
Of course.
Yeah.
Arsenal fans look at it as, okay, in the past, like even under Wenger, it's like, man, at least we're enjoying the football. If you are not enjoying the football and you still come out of it with nothing, I think it's just going to hurt different. That's the point.
I think the frustration will be because the expectations are heightened. No, I don't think I'll be looking at like the style was this or that, right?
I think it's
because I also hated when every single game I go into a Chelsea match, they are beating the hell out of us. I hated when we go to Manchester United, they are beating. We had no chance against any of them guys. I hated that more than I enjoyed.
I think it's linked. Yeah, it's linked with the expectations because, like, for example, let's bring in let's use Manchester United, for example, right? They've been going through their own troubles and everything. And we've seen since Carrick came in, they are enjoying their football, right? And a lot of their fans are much happier now. But then again, ask yourself, what are their expectations? Right? Their expectations right now is like, you know what? We're going to do everything we can to make that top 4. So that's why I said, when we were under Arsene Wenger in his last few years, he was still playing this football. I was sick and tired of that football because it was giving me literally nothing, right? When Wenger won his FA Cup in 24, first one he won after a while, I was like, okay, now you have
Just be
won
going.
something, right? Please be going.
You
Like
know?
literally, even with that win, for me, I was like, okay, fine. But bro, please be going. Because then again, what I was also used to, I could clearly see that Arsene Wenger couldn't measure up anymore. He had his reasons, he had his failures, his strengths and everything. But I could see he couldn't measure up anymore, right? It's funny because I remember watching a Chamberlain interview, Oxley Chamberlain, and he was talking about when he moved to Liverpool under Klopp. And he literally saw the difference of attentions that were being put into every game day, right? And that was when, and mind you, now you've had the Jose Mourinho's who had already come into the league, the Pochettinos who had come into the league, Pep had come into the league. So looking at that interview, literally told me that when we were crying, like what is going on is because Arsene Wenger had not moved on or
He
tried
didn't
to
evolve.
match. Yeah, he didn't. Exactly. Thank you. He didn't evolve to where that football literally found itself at that point, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when those guys moved in, when the Pep came in and everything. Noticed when they said, oh, Pep changed the Premier League and everything, because everybody saw that as a standard. And now it's like, okay, that's a standard to me. That's a standard it takes to be successful. And everyone was trying to go in that same direction. So that's why I say I feel it's tied to an expectation. If we were in the situation where we're fighting for fifth, we're fighting for sixth, I can see where I'll be looking for enjoyable football, right? I enjoy free attacking football, but I've seen it under this same manager. And everybody said, what did he get you? So now if you tell me you want to go the haram way, hey, I'm going to wait till the end of the season and I'll ask the same question, what did he get me? If that is
Right,
what he
right.
gets me, there's no problem.
I will
If he
celebrate
doesn't
that
get me
shit, bro.
that, then we're having another kind of
We're gonna have a
discussion
serious
again.
convo, you know.
Literally, exactly.
Bro, I've
So,
gone through
yeah.
8-2 United jokes, all the 8-2 jokes.
Chelsea
I hate
6-0
to
at
do it.
Stamford.
I've seen everything, man. So it's like,
Yeah.
come on, like all that. You can keep that pretty football, man.
Haram all the way, man.
Yeah.
Hezbollah ball all the way.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, I knew this was going to be one of our, like, last week was a long episode, but I knew this was even going to be longer. We haven't even gotten into the games coming up
The
this
most
weekend.
exciting one.
Yeah, let's jump into that.
mean,
Since we're in
man
the
of it.
Arsenal segment, we'll probably just start there and close it off and move on to other games. It will be our second game in a row where we're playing a relegation team. So we'll start with Sidney.
I mean, am I talking Arsenal or talking Spurs on this segment, on this side?
No, we're playing you guys. So you
we're
talk
doing,
from
you talk from the sports side since we're
I'll
just
talk
doing the
from the
review.
Spurs side. Oh, because you said they were talking since we're on the Arsenal segment. So I was like,
yeah,
okay.
no, we're
Actually,
playing
also
a
highlights on
relegation
the new
team now.
manager as well.
Okay, so I mean, I might as well jump into it. I think both segments are pretty similar. I'm actually excited for the game. I'm excited for the game because the Arsenal collapse is ahead of my schedule. I expected the collapse to start after the Carabao loss. It's ahead of schedule for me, which is interesting.
Wait, what Carabao loss is it talking about? The final that hasn't been played.
Stop
The
asking
final
questions.
loss.
Let me take notes. Don't worry.
The final loss. That's where I expected the collapse to start from. But this is ahead of time. So it's interesting because a couple things have happened. Spurs have been shit all year. No doubts about that. But just happened to have got a new manager before this game with sufficient time, just sufficient time to be able to at least put a plan together before that game. Now, it doesn't, like on paper, it doesn't look good, right? There's 13 available players, senior players for Spurs due to injuries and then a hallmark of substitutions, obviously, having their, I said substitutions, suspensions, having their own impact, Romero being the key one there. But even then, normally I wouldn't feel this way. But again, the Premier League is there's a physical side of it, but there's also a mental side of it. You're bringing in a guy that, Croatian tactician. I've never looked at Tudor as a man for a long haul, but I've looked at him as a very sufficient stopgap. Again, which was difficult for me at the time of Spurs choosing their hire. It was again a clarity issue on what's the strategy. Are we looking for the manager for the next 4 years now? Again, considering there's a lot of good managers available right now, like the Xabi Alonso's, the Marescas, Xavi, name them. There's a few options in the market right now, even the Zerbi, you know. Um, but it seemed like they went for the just stopgap, end of season, short contract, and I'm fine with that. They brought in a guy that has done that a few times, that has been able to significantly raise performance from once he comes in to close out the season by at least a point, which is significant when you're in the lower half of the table and really like staring down relegation battle. I like the Tudor hire because, not necessarily the Tudor hire, but the Tudor hire particularly in this moment ahead of this fixture, because he sets them up, first of all, with belief. He said a peculiar thing in his press conference. He said, my first thing was to make these guys to become a team again, which largely they haven't been. Like, you watch Spurs and it's like everybody's just doing their own thing, man. Romero, if he decides today's the day he's kicking somebody's leg and getting red, he's doing it. If Poro decides he wants to spam 10 crosses in this game, he's just spamming crosses. Zabi, like, everybody is just is a dysfunctional team. The first thing is he's got them organized. One thing I've always appreciated about Croatian football is organization. They may not have the best talent, but at the core of their strategy and philosophy as a footballing nation is organization. Then I look at the fact that Tudor plays more often than not a 3-4-2-1 strategy. I think it suits Spurs currently in this moment. Why? Because ideally, you want to play a Romero Van de Ven partner. Romero is suspended, can't have that. I don't think there's any of these guys that's good enough for a back four pairing, right? So whether it's what would I say? Danso or what's this other clown's name? Dragusin. I don't think either of them is good enough to just play in that center back pairing. So you have 3 defenders. So we're likely going to look at Van der Ven, Dragusin, Danso. Fingers crossed they don't get injured. Fine with that. Ironically, the way Tudor sets up, it's almost like, you're looking at those wing backs as well, where I'd say Spurs also have potential. Because who are the guys that are fit currently? Spence is fit. Poro's fit. The new kid that they just signed from Santos for whatever reason, by the way, again, that goes back to strategy. De Souza's fit. So at least you have personnel that can play in those positions and that you can utilize them. One thing I've always particularly had an issue with the way Spence is deployed at Spurs. I remember when he was signed, it was somebody I was very optimistic about. I remember going against Samko on this point because he would always bash Spence. I think he wasn't going to be relevant, right? But he went on a loan spell, discovered himself, came back, and has been very influential, and almost a mainstay in the team. I think a situation that has him playing as a wing back, particularly on the right side, gets more out of him attacking wise. On the left side, because he's playing again inverted, he's not able to be as fluid going forward. But he's able to be perhaps a little bit, offer a little bit better defensive stability on that side. So having a Spence Souza, I'm fine with that. In midfield, we almost have like perhaps the talent is most consolidated in this area. One thing I like about a Tudor style of play is he likes to attack together and defend together. I think if you have the opportunity to do that, because a lot of the Spurs CMs either call it box-to-box midfielders, like your Conor Gallagher's, your Pap Matassa, or destroyers, like ball-winning midfielders. So your Banter, Palinez, Bisumas, who's become more of that. Before he used to be more playmaker, but he's become more destroyer. So you have the core there to be able to execute on that football. Another thing I think plays an important role is the fact that Arteta, who's obviously like very obsessed with detail, I think he's going to struggle a bit in this match prep because he doesn't have a wealth of analysis to draw from to be able to know exactly what to expect and how to shape up for this Spurs team. He likely will struggle with that. I think we'll see that perhaps in, call it, the first quarter of that game. I think what I would like to see is having two strikers, Solanke, Kolomwani, with Xavi Simons playing just right behind them. So not 3-4-2-1 in this case, but 3-4-1-2. I think there's a chance that they can really surprise Arsenal based on, the mentality on the other side, having team, or what do they call them, player-only meetings right after Wolves, which points to an inquest. It's the right storm. It's the right storm to face that team against. And I genuinely can't wait for Sunday to be here. I think there's an opportunity for Spurs to do something interesting. And you guys know me, I always put my money where my mouth is. And I have done a bit of that ahead of this weekend. So definitely more to look forward to on that side.
Very, very good. Ideally, this would be a concerning game. One of the things I appreciate about my brother Sid was visiting the lounge for the first time is he's always a very articulate guy, expresses himself very coherently. So I appreciate everything you've shared, but I'll keep it short. Of the 3 games that we've played this week, I think we've played 2 of the toughest already. I expect, especially playing in a very comfortable stadium for many this season, I think, yes, it has been turbulent times in the past few weeks in the league for us, but going to a stadium that many have found comfort in, I think I expect to walk out of there with 3 points. Yeah, I gave my very short spiel on the Spurs game. Might as well be Chelsea, to be honest with you, at this point. But
Everybody can get it in.
I mean, no, with Chelsea, they haven't won in 10, so...
hey, fair enough, man.
Yeah,
fair enough. I think Spurs is like 6 or something right now. I think the count is...
I think Spurs is probably going to be... Well, not the upcoming Chelsea game, because I don't know what we get from Liana Rosen.
I mean, you've seen him twice already. If anything, that's the one person you should know what you're going to get.
No, because we've seen him twice and he's done 2 different things, right? Like, and I've given him credit on, some of our chats, right? Like, he's played all the games he's played. The only 2 he has lost is against Arsenal. So if you get a new manager coming in and they put the records that he has on the table, you say that guy has done very well, right? If the only 2 losses that you have is against Arsenal and you won pretty much everything except, I think he drew 1 or 2 in there somewhere. But my point is, the game against Spurs under these conditions that Sidney has mentioned, I think make it really challenging. I'm not going to lie, but expect to walk out of there with all 3 points.
Get your thoughts, Mukman.
Yeah, like, it's going to Spurs usually, like, we already know when you go to their ground, it's always going to be a difficult game, regardless of the position any of those teams find themselves, right? But the one thing I would hope Mikel will be doing in this game is just the same way Trudeau is literally the unknown right now, right? Because you literally haven't seen anything from him to know, okay, where is this player going to play? What kind of system? Maybe the only information you might have is he's going to deploy a back 3. I think Mikel should literally do the same thing, but this time not in terms of your system, but I think this time in terms of your personnel, right? Because most times everyone is going to look at it and be like, okay, I know who the back 4 is going to be. I know who the wingers are going to be. I think you should also throw in a curveball in there and change it in terms of your personnel and how you want to approach this game, right?
Hey.
And
we gotta pump the brakes.
No. I'm being serious. Like, because, for example, if we're going to predict what the lineup is going to be, right? Most likely it's going to be what? Your Saka, Gyökeres, Trossard, Martinelli, or something. You're doing your Zubimendi and your Rice, and you're playing Odegaard and all that, right? Because I'll bet you one thing, Spurs are not just going to come out attacking just from the get-go. He's also going to want to fill out the game. Hence, I say change your personnel and how you want to approach this game, right? For me, for example, I'm not starting with Hincapié in this game. I'm not starting with Timber in this game, right? I'm dropping Zubimendi in this game. Yes, I'm dropping Zubimendi in this game, and I'm playing like a Rice with, I don't know where Odegaard is, but I'm playing with, I would like to see Eze either in that left 8 or Eze on the left wing, right? I'll play like a Nogard and a Rice maybe. So that's what I mean by change the personnel. You might still have the same system, but just give him something a little bit different to think about than what you or what everyone has seen in the last few weeks, right? Don't come up with your Saka in number 10 and Madrid. I'm sorry. Like, even when people were gassing all that stuff during weekend, in my head, I'm like, what's going on here? Like, Saka in the number 10. And I'm just seeing people get all excited and stuff. And I mean, it's funny because if you go back to the Wolves game, right? When the lineup came out, that lineup is good enough to play Wolves. Ask for me. I literally said I hate this attacking lineup. I hate it. Because I think there's just a little bit of, and that's one thing Mikel does a lot. He misprofile players a lot, right? They're different opponents. Like, that's why I say change the personnel, bring a little bit of creativity and balance into the team, right? You're trying to play Gyökeres and you're playing with two runners. Not just two runners, but two runners that literally have the worst final third decision making in the team, if you ask me, Martinelli and Noni, right? Okay, you want to play those runners. Why is there no creativity behind them? Why is there not someone who can play direct behind them? So you literally have to just throw something that when he also looks at that, is like, okay, now there might be something we have to think about than just going there with what we've seen in the last few games. But outside that, I like we are playing Spurs, and Spurs in particular, because we all know that both sides are always going to get up for this game, regardless of where they find themselves. So that's why I'm happy that we're actually playing Spurs. And yeah, I'm still going to go in hoping nothing less than 3 points. So,
you know, what I like about segments like this is that it at least gives the audience and people in our group chats a chance to see that we're not always in lockstep.
yeah,
you know,
because people always think we are.
because trust me, man, if I see a back three starting for Arsenal, nothing
No,
tells
I didn't mean
me
that though. That's not what I meant in terms of like change. I like I said,
thought that's
more
what
of
you
the
meant,
personnel.
I got
No,
yeah.
not changes.
no. Yeah, more of the personnel. Yeah, more of the
because
personnel.
if I see that
Not a
nothing
back
is
three,
telling me that it's dead on arrival more than that. Because at the moment you start questioning like your process and the thing that brought you here and start tinkering, at least at this stage of the game, yeah, you might as well just
I'm
pack
changing.
it up.
I'm doing more of changes in terms of personnel. Like I said, I'm dropping the Zubimendis, bringing Calafiori. I'm starting Ben White. Most likely, I think I'll even bring in Nogard as well. It's
Are you
just
keeping
to change the
Gyökeres?
personnel. Depends on if Havertz is fit. Yes.
God deliver me from this kind of
Yes. It depends on if
permutations and
Havertz. It
combinations.
depends on
man.
if Havertz is fit.
Being an Arsenal fan has been one
Like
of
I've
the
been a
toughest
big, I've
things in
been a
my
big,
life.
I've been a big fan of Jesus, but I've been over Jesus for over a year now.
I mean, but when he plays from the outside looking in,
Yeah.
I actually see him give more than
But
a
that's
European
but you
like
see,
the
that's
ball
the
actually
thing.
sticks.
Yes, the ball sticks, right? But look at the profile of players around him. If I'm playing Martinelli and Noni, I don't want Gyökeres in there. Give me Jesus.
Okay.
Give me Jesus. I'm down with that. Right? So that's why I say it depends on the profile of players, because I'm a strong believer of you trying to play to your players' strengths. So if you're not having like direct players or creative players, I'm okay with Jesus, because Jesus is the guy to drop deep. He's the type to link up with players. He's the type to drift to the left and drift to the right and stuff like that, right? So if I'm having him there with the likes of those other guys, I'm fine with it. Same thing with Havertz, because Havertz is going to involve other players and all like that. If I'm playing with Gyökeres, I need people who are more direct. I need people who are going to make decisions quicker and put the ball into the box quicker. Right? When we've seen the last, 2 or 3 games that we've seen Havertz and Kai play, why have we seen them play better together? Because Havertz is the one that can do the link-up play and bring other people into it. That is not... If you're expecting that from Gyökeres, forget about it.
If the
Forget
Gyökeres
about
experiment ends tomorrow, I will be the last person to feel bad about it. And I think we've had the discussions about Gyökeres and where he ranks against some of the other striker signings. I don't think too many people have outperformed him in like as far as like summer signings or whatever. So that's to his credit. But I look at things as an Arsenal fan first, like what's in the best interest of the team. And I think that's
Team,
where I
exactly.
struggle with the Gyökeres experiment, because I agree. I don't think Gabriel Jesus is the guy that lights up the charts as well. But you have to look at what is overall more of an impact. Like if you add all the sums together, what is better overall? Like, and Jesus might not have the best finishing or get on the end of a lot of goals, but because it keeps the wheels spinning, because it allows other people to get involved in the game, that becomes a plus in my books than starting the game with somebody that needs all of the right conditions in a league that is not as providing of those conditions all the time for him to succeed. I know what Gyökeres' strengths are. He's the kind of guy just wants to get on the ball. It packs a very strong shot and is going to get a goal that way. But this league has shown that you're not always going to get that time and space. And so you have to manufacture that time and space. And that's where he appears to have struggled. And we cannot always continue to accommodate that, especially in the crunch end of the season, when you need like magic moments, pretty much. Like the
Yeah, but
stats
for
that
me, I
came out
don't look at
today
it
is not
as
good. Or
like for me, I
yesterday.
don't even look at it as trying to accommodate him, right? Like when I say you need to profile your players better, it's not just in the attack. I look at it in the defense as well, right? Me and you, we've talked about this thing, and I've said everybody loves Timber. I love Timber, right? But there's a little preference I have with Ben White. Why? Because I've seen when Ben White, Odegaard, and Saka play together, I think our right side is a little bit more efficient than it is with
I
Timber.
agree with you. And
It's the same thing I've seen on the left side with Henkape. So that's why I said for a system that is so rigid with Mikel, profiles do matter, right? For a lot of the times, yeah, you might just throw in bodies there because you're playing a Wigan or you're playing a Portsmouth or something. But when you're playing in the league, like you said, where it has less space, you literally have to maximize whatever space or whatever situation you find yourself. I think the profiles actually really, really do matter.
So no. Let me be clear on what I'm trying to say. Of course, you're right in terms of profile matter, right? But when I look at the picture and say, where are the margins bigger? Like, where can I squeeze more out of the margins? Like, if I switch Timber and put in White, yes, I could incrementally get something out of that, right? But is that where the drop off is the biggest? I don't think it is, right? I prefer Calafiori playing instead of Nkapie because I think it gives us much more solidity, much more fluidity, because Calafiori is more comfortable drifting into crazy areas of the pitch, right? But am I getting that much more? Like, are we considering one goal less because Calafiori played or Nkapie didn't play? I don't think you're almost splitting the apple there. It's the same problem I had last season when everybody was going on, what's his name? Havertz. And I was the first person to keep calling out Odegaard. I said, if you look around the front five, yes, Havertz might not be your cup of tea, but if I evaluate the front five and say what position has the biggest drop off in what you expect out of that position, the answer was pretty clear to me if I wanted to be objective. Right? Saka wasn't giving you Salah numbers, but it was giving you what he had. Like, it was giving you those numbers. Martinelli and Trossard were giving you what they could in the left position. Havertz, that everybody was screaming, But then there was a darling that people did not want to talk about, right? It's like, but if you put those numbers to the test, they don't look as great. So it's the same thing where like I can't pick on the White versus Timber, Calafiori versus Nkapie, and all these other things, all these other subplots. When I can look at one position and say, bro, it's not good enough that, you know, we're like for 60% of the games, it appears we're a passenger, right? So that's where I'm saying I would rather take a guy that if Jesus does nothing else but create space for other people to, you know, create attacks and whatever the case might be, I would say that that's a better outcome. That's my own personal view, right? So, but yeah, I don't know.
What will be your lineup for this game?
Bro, I haven't fully recovered from the week.
I haven't fully recovered.
But I think the center back pairing picks itself. You know, Gabriel and Saliba probably get the nod, except we find out that there is like a niggle or something last minute. What I want, again, we have to make this distinction between what I want and what I think the manager is going to end up doing. I would want White to come in. I think I texted you. That was one of my post-mortem or post-whatever analysis. I was like, man, I think it's time for White to come into the game. I love Timber. I think he's an excellent right back defensively. But it's clear that we need help offensively, and White offers more offensively. I would definitely put Calafiori into this game. So that's my back four right there. Goalkeeper picks itself. I think Zubimendi can be taken off the firing line for now, right? I think I want to see more of a front-footed approach, you know, put more attacking players in there, make space for Eze, platform him properly. So Eze, and if Odegaard is fit, he plays. If Havertz is fit, he plays. I think Saka is the obvious choice, to play in that position. And I think that I would take Trossard's decision-making over Martinelli's industry in a game like this any day of the week, because Martinelli's a hard worker, is going to track back, is going to offer more. The margins are just too tiny in a game like this that, you know, you want somebody that can actually contribute when you have like a very slim chance. Martinelli, I don't think that that's him, especially in the profile that he plays for that particular team. Like for us right now, hugging the touchline is not his strength at all, I think, on the left wing. So better play someone that is best suited to doing that. So that would be it. Your will start on the bench for me. That's
So he still starts for you up top?
I want Havertz if Havertz is fit, but if it's not, then I'll take Jesus for sure. Yeah. That's my stance. But anyway, let's take this back to the internal memo. This is getting Sidney. Don't come back. Don't come back.
I really can't wait for Sunday, man. There's an opportunity there to do something special, and I hope Tudor takes it. Today is Tudor, man. Today is
going to get two of those things and walk out of the door with it, you know.
Man, because I see it. If Tudor comes out with two strikers, if Tudor comes out with two attacking midfielders behind the striker, okay.
I think if you do that, that would be suicide for you guys.
I think he does two strikers.
Because now you're defending with 9 all the time. You're good. What would be the two? Solanke and
Kolomwani.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how he does it. But just a mix of Solanke being the focal point, Xavi Simons and Kolomwani going off of him. I think there's enough in there to give you guys a handful.
Yeah, but then you're expecting that one or both of those guys are disciplined enough when you don't have the ball to tuck in and, you know, contribute a job defensively. I don't know that those guys are naturally those players, right? And if you guys are fortunate to go down early, you know, some set piece or something, it blows the entire thing up.
No, I'll tell you something. A hallmark of an Igor Tudor system is both teams to score. So for viewers that are watching this, just take that to the bank.
Both teams scored in the first leg. One just scored 4 more or 3 more.
He will concede, but Spurs will score, and you'll see a very competitive Spurs team.
I'll
And
take
I think
another first leg results. You know, if both teams want to score, it's cool.
I think Xavi Simons is going to have a really good game. By the way, almost like the opposite. You know, it was Eze's time first time around. I don't think he's going to have as good a game as Eze did in the first leg, which I think was just written for him. But I think Xavi Simons has a very good game. I could very well see a 2-1 result for Spurs. Worst case 2-2. I don't see Spurs losing that game. Not to Arsenal at this point in time.
Okay.
Play the game in a different time. I'll agree. The only thing obviously that helps is, 13 players. I can see how the team tires out later in the game, especially with Tudor who likes to play with high intensity. And just not having the subs at the end, concentration dropping. I can see like a goal conceded in the last 20. But outside of that, I think it's going to be a performance that Spurs fans are going to be happy with. So see.
Sunday isn't too far, so we'll see.
Isn't too far.
It's we're way past time, but we'll do one more game, one that actually has bearing on the title race, which is Manchester City at home to Newcastle. Really, this is a waste of time because City, every time they see Newcastle, it's like they just licking their lips.
It's a barbecue.
I don't know, something about this game, and forget the hopium piece of it. I just think that the law of averages or something could come into play. Like City has beaten Newcastle on every attempt they can get. It looks like, right? It's like home, away, wherever it is light work.
Even when they were good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys expect?
I expect 3 points from Man City actually.
I'd
And
say
Newcastle
City.
actually traveled a long way during the midweek for their Champions League game, and City had a full week off. So, yeah.
I would say
City doing
very, very similar, to be honest. I think City get the 3 points there. I think you're just looking at a team that's really dialed in at the moment, attacking wise. I heard Haaland is fit, so it's like no issues there. Even if he's not fit, I'm still backing those boys to get 3 points against Newcastle. But him fit, he just makes that back line look so solid. Like he just looks like he's being the missing piece of that puzzle. Semenyo gives them a bit more directness that I'd say you get on good Doku days. The issue is Doku doesn't have a lot of those good days often enough. If you have a guy like Semenyo that's giving you that, then man, it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, I can already book that Carabao loss for Arsenal today. So you guys can take that one to the bank whenever you do your segment. For that one, remember that Sid said. And if you guys want to put some money up, of course, I got you.
I know where to find you.
You know what to find. I ain't hard to
We're
find.
not doing any of that in air, but I know where to find you.
That day is gonna be a funny day.
But yeah, it's been a long time that I've done some crazy takes, so I'm gonna give my crazy take is still recovering. I think that Newcastle are going to get a draw at the Etihad tomorrow. That is my prediction. I'm going with the law of averages. At some point,
Enough is enough.
Yeah, you can't keep getting slapped. You can't keep getting slapped, So I don't think they can win. I just don't. I think City are clearly the better team, have the better players, better form, and all of that stuff. But I just think that at some, like, bro, it's been back to back. But they've played them twice already. 3 times already, right? They lost the 2 in the Carabao Cup for sure.
Newcastle won the one at St. James.
Newcastle won. James.
2-1 or 3-1, something like that.
Ooh,
At St.
I didn't
James.
even know they had a win in them. I guess
Remember that's the one that had that VR situation.
Oh,
beginning of the season, yeah. 2-1
I'm not
or
ready to
3-1
upgrade.
or 3-2, something like that.
To upgrade my prediction. So let me not go crazy. But let's stop at the draw for now.
At least they have some players back, so maybe they have some good.
Yeah, the best Bruno in the league is going to play, isn't it?
No. No. He's out. I think he's out
Is
till
he?
like April.
Oh,
Yeah.
right? Oh,
Joelinton is
you
back.
didn't tell me that part
Botman is
before I
back,
went
I
crazy.
think. I think it's Joelinton and what's his name? Botman that are back.
What's Joe Linton going to do other than fight a couple of people on the pitch?
You just asked me a question now. Shit.
I thought Bruno was back now, but I guess
Nah, I think Bruno is out till like April, maybe, or March.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's
Good,
been out for a minute.
I know, but again, at some
he's
point,
not
out
back.
for a minute means you
No,
should be
he's not
coming back anytime.
Nah.
Not at some point.
He's not back.
Okay. All good. Still sticking with the draw. We'll see. It's tomorrow. Yeah, I think we should call it here, man. Sidney, thanks so much for coming into the lounge. Really enjoyed the conversation. Not surprising that is the longest episode we've recorded because this is just boys just catching up, man. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks for stopping by and welcome back anytime.
Man, appreciate you guys. Keep doing. I think this is beautiful, by the way. I hope it just continues to grow and soar because, man, at the end of the day, you guys are just guys that love ball. It's unfortunate you've been, blessed with the curse of Arsenal. Beyond that, I hope it's happier times this season for you guys.
Man.
All right, boys.
Have a good one, my guys.
Samko, this is where I passed the rock to my shooting guard to bring us home. The Samko segment.
Just the usual, just the usual, like, shout out and love to like the listeners and everybody. Just like, subscribe, and see you guys next week, my people. Love you.
All right.
Yep.
And